So I've also realized, all praises to God, that a lot of the reason why I struggled with forgiveness, a lot of the reason why I had unforgiveness in my heart for so long when it comes to mother wound and my mother and just life in general, it wasn't just her, honestly, where I struggled with that. It was everywhere, is twofold. So one reason is I felt like I couldn't forgive my mother because her behavior wasn't going to change. My forgiveness was rooted in her more so in myself. And I didn't understand that. That was something that I didn't really get, and I don't know that anybody else, well, people always say that forgiveness is for you, it's not for the other person. But I think that's a little different than what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is my inability to forgive, I wanted my forgiveness to be connected to behavior change, right? I wanted to only forgive if I wasn't going to experience the negativity again, if the thing that was going on was guaranteed to not happen to me again. And if I couldn't have that, then I didn't want to forgive. And I had to realize whoa, I had to realize that bugs. I had to realize that that's not how forgiveness works. It's true. It truly is for you. It can be for the other person too, and it can't have some requirement attached to it. It can't be rooted in a tit for tat scenario where, well, if you're not going to give me this, then I'm not going to give you that type of thing. Um, and it can't be that way because habits are really, really hard to break. Like, shifting personality, changing who we are, takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of effort. It's not just as simple as, you waking up and deciding I'm not going to do this anymore. And that's something else that God has been showing me. God has been showing me through my own habits how hard habits are to break. And through my own personality, how complex changing personality actually is. It's not something that you just do overnight. And so I'm realizing that, like, you can't hold a person hostage in that way. You can't say, well, I'm going to wait for you to break the habit. I'm going to wait for you to never do the thing again in order to forgive you for it. You legitimately, as the Bible says, you have to forgive 70 times. You have to forgive again and again and again and again and again. And that may sound ridiculous, right? It may sound literally ridiculous, but it's the only way, because we as people, even when we do want to change, right? Even when we do want to be better, even when we do put in effort to move in a new direction, it still takes time to get to that place, right? Habits, behavioral patterns, ways of thinking that are deeply rooted, that are firmly rooted, especially the ones that are rooted and trauma. And a lot of times, a lot of people's negative traits and negative behaviors and actions are rooted in trauma. Those are the most difficult to get rid of because they're connected to something greater, right? They're not some random kind of on the surface thing. They're like firmly rooted within the identity of the person, within the mind of the person. And yeah, like flipping from one way of doing things to another way of doing things is just not realistic. It's not realistic. It's not realistic at all. And you have to be patient with people. You have to be realistic with people. And so, yeah, one of the reasons, that's a really big reason why I struggled with forgiveness and have suffered through unforgiveness for so long. And then I would project that onto other people, right? I would take that foundational wound, I would take that foundational understanding, I would take that foundational situation, and I would apply it to everybody else. And so in my mind, like, nobody was going to stop doing the things that they were doing. And so I couldn't forgive anybody, which absolutely positively is not true. But, that's how that works. That's how trauma works. That's how powerful the mind is, right? The mind is or was our first computer. Before your smartphone, before all of these devices, this was the computer. And I mean it still is a computer. And so, yeah, that was a reason. And then, feeling as though that I was letting the person off the hook and that they weren't going to be held accountable for their actions, I think was another big one for me. Like, feeling as though that if someone does something that they shouldn't do, that, they should be held accountable and there should be consequences. And I wanted to provide the consequence, right? I wanted to be the person to be giving them their, I guess, punishment, kind of, if you will. And I had to realize that that's not my place, that God sees everything. God is an all-knowing God, and God will deal with people accordingly. And you want it that way. You want it that way. You don't want to be the person trying to reprimand somebody else. I mean, if you have kids, and that's a different context and a different conversation that we can talk about another day. But yes, you want God to be handling people, because God can handle people in ways that you literally never ever could. God knows all. And so God knows how to give folks exactly what they need to achieve what needs to be achieved. Where with you using the 10% of your brain that we use to try and, you know, teach somebody a lesson or help them to understand the errors of their ways, or however you want to look at it, right? Is incomplete. It's incomplete. It's not even complete, because you don't even fully understand or know about the issue or the individual or why they did what they did, a lot of the times. And so, yeah, those were like two really big reasons that I struggled and would harbor unforgiveness for so long, like way overdue. And man, the Lord is good, because the Lord said, the Lord said, I'm going to learn you. I'm going to learn you. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to show you. You are going to come to an understanding of this. And I have. I overstand it at this point. Like, I can see how those two big areas, right, really guided all of my decision making. Really controlled, my ability to get past things and move on and be happy, right? Be at peace. Not even when it comes to the other person, but just with myself, right? And so, yeah, reasons for unforgiveness. I hope that makes sense for people. I know there are some other folks out there who might be struggling with this, who might be wanting to get beyond, and you can do it. You can break through. Breakthrough is possible. Transformation is possible. Growth and evolution are possible.